All right, so last class we talked about the chest and sculpting that anatomy. And after we did that, I told you guys to go and work on it so that today we could check them out and I could show you how I would go about it. So let me pull up that document just so I have it as reference as well. All right. Let me get back to it. All right, so yeah, last class we talked about the process for sculpting. Let me show you guys how we're gonna start. Hopefully you guys can see ZBrush, and we are gonna use Z spheres once again. We talked about scapula, the arm, the clavicle, the spine. We talked about the S shape of the spine and how it's kind of it's got its own rhythm to it and everything. So let's start with this Z sphere. And what I'm gonna do is just start scaling it up. All right. And then draw at the bottom, like so. Let me turn on no board. Go full cam. Right. I'm gonna move this Z sphere up a little bit. So this will act as our de facto rib cage. And as you guys see, the rib cage, right? It's got a slight angle to it. All right, and I'm gonna scale this bottom Z sphere up to encompass our ribs, like so. And then I can draw another one here. So I can draw another one at the bottom here, like so, and that'll be we can move this guy down. Boom, like so. Alright. And as you can see, the pelvis itself even has its own tilt. So let's scale this up as well. Alright. And then I'm going to do another draw. Alright, and this should be enough to get started where we're trying to start. you can see the natural. All right. So something like this, you can then go to your adaptive skin. Let's preview this. Let's go to my geometry to see what it looks like. No, I'm going to reduce the resolution all the way down to 0. Let's preview it again. That's a lot better. Something like this is much more usable for our purposes. All right. Right. So this is one way to create it. If you're going to create your torso base, right? So this is one way to create it. Another way to create it is, if you want to, you can, let me append. You can also start with a sphere. And then you can move this, move this guy in place. Essentially do the same thing. Let me hide this one so you guys can see what I'm doing. All right, there's a bunch of different ways to do this, guys. So you can start like that. And then you can use the move brush, right? You can grab the move brush. Let's turn off our wireframe. I'm using the brackets to scale up. And then I can just use that to kind of start pulling down. Oops. Just to control. Move. All right. And then if I wanted to, I can use this to tilt. Draw square, and then I can start to smooth out all this stuff. Alright, so there's a bunch of different ways to start these guys. Oh, okay, I think the reason there's a hole right here is because I'm pretty sure I accidentally selected, yeah, the top of that hole. So when you're doing your mask, make sure you grab the bottom piece. I'm hitting control to switch back and forth, and then I can use this to move this guy down, hopefully making sure that I don't have a hole. And I can scale. All right, scale up or down, rotate to the side, rotate. All right. Alright, so those are the ways that I would go about kind of starting these guys. So you can, this one kind of gives you more of a cleaner start that you can then start messing with. So let's go to my adaptive skin. If I make it an adaptive skin now, I should have something that resembles this. All right. Let's go to my geometry. I want to fix my symmetry here. I think if I zero this out, then my symmetry works now. All right. So now I've got my symmetry here, and now I can start to use my move tool, my scale, and my rotation tool to kind of start shaping our body here. All right. So this is how I kind of go about starting one of these guys. Let's see where and I'm using the you guys should all have a copy of the lecture I gave yesterday to use as reference, right? So, you know, and as you guys see, I'm working super low, working with symmetry on, and I am just trying to get all of these forms kind of pulled out and filled out. All right, this guy may be not so beefy, but yeah, that's what we're working with right now. And the traps, right? All right, this is for me to get the overall kind of shape in there. All right. And once I get that overall shape looking kind of the way I like it, all right, you see how low I'm working? Let me make sure this. There you go. Shit, my smooth is too much. I'm going to reduce the increment of my smooth there. All right. And I'm making sure that I've got what I need in place before I move on. I'm even starting to define some of these at this very low stage. I'm giving myself an idea of like, all right, so where would his rib cage end? Right about here. All right. Increasing the size of the obliques a little bit, pulling out the abdominal just a little bit. All right. All right, I'm just focusing on the chest and back area. So that's the main goal, you know. So we're going to start with something similar to this. I'm going to go my geometry. Let me divide it one time. All right. Maybe I can then start going back again, right? Just going back and pulling again. All right. I'm looking for the form in what I'm doing already. All right. And now what I can do is, if I look at my geometry, like so, I can go into, let's Z-remesh it right quick. I'm going to do the same, and I'm going to Z-remesh. All right. And then I'm going to divide it one time. So I'm going to go B, D, S. That's my Damien standard tool. Let's turn off my poly groups here. And I'm just going to go broad strokes. All right. Real quick, just to, that's too broad. All right, and the main thing now is that I've got my symmetry on. All right, I'm just kind of etching in where some of the stuff on the front is. Right, let's just address the front right quick. All right, we've got and then we've got the abdominal. And remember, we've got like a 10 pack, right? So it kind of goes all the way down, right? And these aren't perfectly, right? They're not some perfect, they kind of have like a down swoop to them. These kind of go down. Shift. All right. And then you've got your obliques. They kind of come like so. All right. Just making sure that. All right. Go BMV. Let's pull this out a little bit more. All right. Now, let's divide it one more time. I'm going to go B, C, and T. That's clay tubes. Reduce it all the way down now. And then I'm just going to reduce the scale all the way down. And I'm just going to use that to kind of lift some of this, shift to smooth. Right, following some of those striations that I'm seeing in our reference images. All right. Recognizing that what makes the abs and all that stuff look real is if I'm not making them look like just random rocks or like little cuboids. They're not cubes, right? And then we've got those. And then the obliques, right? They come right around like so. All right, we've got the obliques. And we've got that muscle that kind of gives you that V taper. And then I'm going to go back to my Damian standard BDS, right? And remember we've got those little wingettes. Maybe reduce the intensity a little bit. All right. We've got the wingettes. That happened right here. Right, and that's going to lead us to the back. All right, I'm going to do the opposite here where I'm going to hit Alt, and I'm using this to pull out the mesh. Right, and you guys can see that, and then I'm using that to kind of define how the abdominal or the pectoral is working. So let's go. Let's go BCT again. So use this to. All right, and then we've got the clavicle right up here. Goes into the shoulder blade. All right, so here's a cool feature. If I do a stroke and I hit the one on the keyboard, it just repeats that stroke for me. All right, so B, C, B. It's too much. All right. All right, so just simple. Let's go BDS again. maybe use this as an opportunity to once again define, right, the separation, and then I'm going to put the right there. All right, and I'm not even dealing with, you know, how it's really connecting to the deltoids right now, and I should. So I will just kind of trying to show you guys how the direction of that muscle pulls, and you know. So let me go B, C, B, and then maybe I'll use this to just pull out some clay for our delts. All right. Now I can show you guys how they connect. Just shift to smooth this out. B, D, S, right? And then you've got, go BMV to move, give us the illusion of our traps. All right, the sternocleidomastoid that comes right here. So I'm just going to move this guy like so. All right. So just using the move tool, you can start to really shape the body how you want. Right, maybe bring out the obliques just a little bit more, like so, as I'm working the mesh. And I'm still working relatively low too, so that's another thing. And all I'm using is essentially the move tool, like a couple brushes to BCB to get what we're looking at right now. So I'm just gonna extend this guy all the way out so you guys understand what's going on. All right, it gets to our shoulder blade. If I shift smooth this out so you guys can kind of understand. All right, this kind of stops right here. It's like a ball. All right, that's how I would imagine it. I would tell you guys to imagine it's like this little ball at the end. Right, the clavicle, this is where it attaches to your, this is where your clavicle attaches to your sternum. Right, and then you've got the sternocleidomastoid that comes right there and attaches to the anterior, right to the end of that right there, and then you've got the other piece of it that goes right under. All right, and then you can, if you're, you know, kind of swole, you can see the traps from the back. All right, we're not dealing with the back just yet. I'm gonna here in a bit, but I'm just kind of going through what you can see from the front for the most part. All right. And smooth it out. All right, this goes to your shoulder blades, and then, all right, the mesh right here isn't very good, so I'm gonna probably need to apologize here in a second, but I want to push it. I want to push it as far as it can go before I do that operation. All right. And it's very easy to start building, you know what I'm saying? Like just building up the shapes and the muscles and stuff like that. And that's why I tell you guys, draw it out first, right? See how it fits, see where it goes, and then you can use the move tool to start adding and removing, you know, different muscles. So I can go BDS now, right? If I see that, you know, if I want to make him a little more vascular, I can accentuate, right, how those obliques are formed, right, depending on the kind of character I'm going for. All right. All right. So you got to remember right here, right? This bulge right here is coming from the rib cage, right? I would imagine, right, the rib cage is right in this kind of area right here, right? And then this that you see right here, right, this little muscle, that's because the reason it's kind of roundish like that is because you would imagine that it's going around the rib cage. All right. So that's what I'm doing is whenever I'm, kind of drawing or sculpting anything, I'm imagining the underlying structure of what's going on under it. So I'm thinking, okay, so that's, I would imagine that's where the rib cage, or I would imagine that's where the sternum is, and even though I'm not seeing it, right, I'm using it as my guide, right? So in these don't meet. I kind of did them a little too gung ho ish, but. This guy connects back here, and I still really haven't gone and done any of that to make the this guy would really BMV for making the deltoid. It would kind of come to like a point like so. All right. And then I'm just gonna, like I'm saying, like you guys can sculpt and then use the move tool. And that's the beauty about kind of working with digital clay like this, is you can then get around and turn the model around or turn the sculpt around and just make sure that you're getting the best from all the angles. All right. So now let's look at the back. I'm going to do the same BDS, where I start with just looking at where the muscles themselves are placed. All right. We're going to start with some of the bigger muscles, right? Like the traps. These are some of the muscles that you'll be able to see from the front. And it kind of goes like so, and it kind of comes back like this, and it kind of has this little, to reduce the scale of this, it's kind of got this bird, it's almost like a wing look to it. All right, so like so, boom, 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 like so. And then the lats. All right, the lats are the giant, the broadest muscle in the back. All right. And the lats kind of come around like so. Let me smooth this out a little bit. All right, and with this kind of goes all the way into the base of the skull, and this is what you can see. So I'm going to BMV. All right, you can kind of see this from the front a little bit, like so. All right, go BDS again. So I can draw more of this shape out. And then we've got the teres, major, minor, right in here. All right. So this is pretty much your roadmap. right? It's pretty much your roadmap for the back. You got your lats. And now I can go BCT using my clay buildup tool. And then I can use that to kind of start building, right, on top of it. Right? I can use that to start building how those muscles are formed. Right? And that's why I tell you guys, just take it a step at a time. You know, what I'm trying to show you guys to do is you identify the muscles, and then you draw them. You identify whether they match what you're looking at in your reference, right? And then once you do that, you can go on to the next step of filling out the muscle with clay. All right? So BCB, this is the clay tooth, no BCT. All right, I'm just gonna, then I've got these guys, and I'm sculpting them in the direction that I see the muscle. And this helps me, right? Because what this does is it lets me know, okay, the striations for this particular muscle, right, kind of go like this. Like this. They undulate like this. For this, it goes like this, right? It's almost like a ribbon that goes all the way to the top, like so. Right? So I'm trying to follow those striations. Right. And then the obliques. So this is, let's go BDS again, and then I can start using this to further, right? I can use this to further define those muscles that you have. And it's kind of, you're going back and forth, back and forth, right? It's a process. It's a process. You gotta go through it. That's the only way you guys are gonna get to the other side, is you've gotta go through the process of identifying the muscle, where it's located, how it's striated, and when you're doing these exercises, you're training yourself to be better at those muscle groups. All right, BMV, might move this a little further down to give myself. All right. So this is, you know, the only thing, let me see, I would do is maybe BFA. Just flatten this out a little bit. And then you can BMV if you want to give it a little thickness, right, around this. You can still do that. You can thicken the back up, and that's, you know, if I don't like the proportions, boom, I can start making big changes, right, to our sculpt, to the dimensions, right, to the roundness of certain muscles. But I already have my proportions, my, you know, my sculpt and those muscles kind of in place, so I just have to then move it to where it needs to go. We can reduce the size of this. This kind of got big. Alright, now if I divide it again, I can then start BFA. Okay. BCB, which is the clay buildup. Let's do that 1. Alright, this is when you would start to go a little more in depth. Alright. BDS. Alright, so now I'm just doing the same thing, going back and forth. Even. BCT. A little bit of Alright, so that's how I would go about just starting to address these BDS. Then I go back again, right? Now I'm I'm just doubling down on. Whoops. Sorry about that. So I'm just now just looking at how these muscles are supposed to be kind of striated, or just giving the sense of that slowly but surely. All right. Go straight down like so, and straight up. All right, and we've got those teres muscles that are in there. I'm going to do with this, right? I'm just going to shift, smooth it back out. Smooth it out. And then this guy kind of goes in like this. Alright. So, does anybody have any questions for me? Comments, concerns? You know what the assignment's going to be, which is going to be just to go and attempt this yourself, and then on Thursday we will look at them and see how you guys did. Does that sound good?
Yep.
Awesome.
I have a question.
Awesome. Ask away.
Can all this be done in Blender as well, or do we have to download ZBrush?
Yes, it can all be done in Blender. It can all be done in Blender.
Cool. And is ZBrush like free to download or no?
No, it's not. I'll send you a link to an equivalent for ZBrush as well.
Understood.
Cool.
Thank you.
No worries. If you guys don't have any questions for me, you guys are free to go on about your day. I will see you guys on Thursday.
See ya.